One of the things I may have mentioned before, it's worth repeating again, is that the sermons that we give here in the cathedral and in our other services are of different types. There are different types of sermons, and these different types of sermons serve different functions. There are topical sermons like the doctrine of the Lord or the doctrine of faith, charity, where it's treated as a subject in itself, and you go from there. There are expositional sermons which take a story from the Lord's Word, maybe the story of Samson or the story of the days of creation, and the inner meaning, the internal sense is explored, and that's an expositional type sermon, so we have those. There are hortatory sermons. I love that word, hortatory. Hortatory means to implore the audience to consider a particular argument from doctrine. And there are occasional sermons, which usually are connected with festival services, and these like Easter and Christmas and New Church Day. And there are other types too. And the one that we're doing today, and I've done this occasionally, are pastoral sermons. A consideration from doctrine from the pastor or one of the pastors that is pastoral in tone and pastoral in focus. And it seems appropriate here for our last community worship service for the season to have one of these types of sermons. So, what we're exploring today is this idea of forgetting important things. And the first thing I'd like to clarify is that we're not talking about a bad memory. We're not talking about, forgetting the keys or, forgetting an appointment or something like that. And this can get pretty serious too as we get older in terms of like memory loss and things like that. And we have loved ones who have this gradual decline in memory. So I'm not talking about that kind of forgetting. There's another kind of forgetting that I want us to really explore today together. But that type of forgetting can be frustrating, but that's not what this sermon is about. I would say, just as an aside, that in the book Heaven and Hell, there's a section that talks about the book of life, and it also specifically talks about the memory. And just as an aside, in terms of forgetting, there are these incredible teachings that we have, and you might want to read that chapter sometime if you're interested in it, about the fact that as to our memory, both our natural memory in terms of all the experiences we have on planet Earth, as well as all of the interior or deeper memories that we have, experiences, nothing is lost. So much so that there's one teaching that says that when a person goes from this world to the next, if they were a writer, for example, and they'd written a book, they can rewrite that book from memory. So it's an important thing to remember in terms of our natural memories, even though that's not the purpose of the sermon today, is that nothing is lost, even though as we age, we do forget things, and it can be very frustrating. So what kind of forgetting am I talking about? I'm talking about things that we really, really care about, which strangely, frustratingly, and painfully, we forget. And I'm talking about things like the 10 Commandments, the Golden Rule, going the extra mile, looking to the good in a situation, forgiving. All of these things which we might say, well, I know that. How could I possibly forget the 10 Commandments as a memory thing? How could I possibly forget these things? Well, think about the scriptures, because we really do need to put ourselves into the shoes of all the characters and all the people that are there in the storyline of the scriptures. Think back to Easter, which we have just finished celebrating. And I'm thinking of the words of the women at the tomb who came to find the body of the Lord, and the Lord wasn't there. He had risen. And the word or the phrase that is used there is, and they remembered his words. Once the angels reminded them that the Lord had repeatedly said he was going to be put on trial, crucified, and would rise on the third day. There's all the information. How could they possibly forget? And they did. They completely forgot. They were like a blank slate. And then the angels reminded them, and they remembered his words. I focus on that, but there's many, many other places in the scriptures that are reminders to the followers of the Lord about important things. So I've come to think, we can think of the Lord's Word and the Scriptures in many different ways, but for the purposes of today, there's many, many ways that we can think of the Lord's Word. Today, think of the Word as a book of remembrance, that all of these teachings are written down so that we can go back and recall and remember and say, that's right, I need to refocus on that particular teaching. The thing about this type of remembering that I'm talking about and forgetting is that thankfully and mercifully, it is the Lord who helps us remember the really important things in our lives that sometimes get buried. And the thing that buries these important things that we care about a lot, which get buried, is because of angst, because of worry, because of fear, and those things are feel like they've been completely blotted out. So who does the remembering? Well, on the deepest level, it is the Lord. I don't know whether you've ever had the experience of just sort of walking along or just waking up, and there's something that pops into your head, an important thing that you hadn't thought about or hadn't been a focal point, and there it is. Well, was that you, or was something else going on? I'd like to suggest that the Lord, who cares so deeply about each one of us, and not just in general, with the very hairs of our head being numbered, meaning the Lord is intimately aware of what is going on in our lives and in our memory, and is helping us recall important things. I want to, if you want to read along, you can just listen. Want to read one of the passages I included in the program here. And this is from the Noah story in the book Secrets of Heaven. And it's an explanation of the words God remembered. God remembered means that he is merciful. His remembrance is mercy, which is ascribed mainly to the period following trials and struggles, since new light then radiates. So the period following struggles, new light radiating. It is a merciful thing, if we're to follow this along, the fact that we can forget really important things to do with our spiritual life, to do with our soul, that the Lord is there to help us remember. Just like I was saying to the children in this beautiful house of worship that we have, all of the stained glass windows, all of the carvings, all of these are there to help us recall, to remind us. So I want to just share probably the most important point in this sermon as to, well, how can this happen? And if we can get over how can it happen that we forget such important things, like the Ten Commandments, the Golden Rule, all of these beautiful teachings. And to go deeper, the reason why it happens is because the hells, evil spirits, and we have so many teachings which talk about this, want us to forget the important things in our lives. They want us to forget things of spiritual value and everything that has spiritual significance. And it's not like they're consciously aware of any one of us and they know our name or anything like that. It's a sphere. It's a sphere, a destructive sphere, a sphere of confusion, a sphere of division, spiritually, that is in the business of making us forget what is important. And the damaging part of this is that we have the wrong idea of who the enemy is. The enemy is not the person that we're disagreeing with, or the person that is not listening to us, or the person that we're frustrated with. That is not the enemy. The all-out war, spiritual war that we're involved in is against the hells who are trying to get us to forget or to lose the focus on the important things in our life. I had a college teacher when I was in theological school say to my class that you are going to need to have the Lord's Prayer written out any time you lead in divine worship, because the evil spirits will make you forget it. I didn't believe it at the time. I was like, nah, it's not going to happen. It happens regularly. So this is to recognize the spiritual enemy. The spiritual enemy is really in the business of making us just forget or downplay or minimize the value of these important things that we're talking about. So in moving to this opportunity for you, which is unique to our services, which is just after hearing some of these thoughts and teachings from the Lord's Word, is for you to think about the real question is, we know these things, so what can you do about it? And how am I going to remember? So we talked a little bit with the children already about Post-it notes, and I would add for adults, I know a couple where the husband has on his phone one alarm, and it's to wake up in the morning. And his wife has about 15 reminders, alarms, all the way through the day for things that she wants to be reminded. And I get a chuckle out of that, but I think what I'm encouraging you to do is today to reflect on what is the important thing that I'm forgetting right now. Not forgetting in the sense of like it's been erased from my memory, or I completely forgot about it, but again, something that is that I'm being attacked on a level I'm being attacked on where I'm not praying, I'm not reading the Lord's Word, I'm not looking to the good in a situation, I'm not giving this person the benefit of the doubt. These are the things that the hells delight in making sure that we forget about. It's not important. So there are different things, Post-it notes, we all have different ways, but I would encourage you to pick one or two things in this exercise in a moment to think about, yes, this is something that has fallen out of my vision, fallen out, even out of my peripheral vision, and I'd like to get back in the middle. And so I say this as one of the pastors of this congregation because it's really hard when we have things coming at us in our personal lives, around us, in our work life, things that are making it really stressful, when we're under stress, when we're feeling anxious, all these precious things that we know about, but they still get buried. They get buried in terms of their significance, in terms of that's not going to, how could that possibly help? How's that going to help me? So I'd like to end before we go to this time of quiet reflection and discussion. Two of the beautiful teachings from the scriptures. First one from Psalm 77. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember your wonders of old. I will also meditate on all your work and talk of your deeds. And then also from the Psalms, bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. And so in the time for reflection, which we'll be moving to, two questions. One's not really a question, but first step, identify one or two spiritual practices. Could be prayer, could be reading the Word, could be helping, serving the neighbor and friends, looking to the good in others. There's many, many things that we know are so important for our own spiritual growth and development that are getting forgotten in your life. And this isn't a matter of pointing fingers. This is a matter of realizing that we are involved in all-out war, spiritual war, against the evil spirits who would like us to forget these things. And then think about what reminders. This is an important step. Sticky notes, phone alarms, visual prompts that you could use in your home, your car, your office to better work with the Lord in remembering. And this is a really important step because, again, the evil spirits will even thwart our efforts to put pen to paper, to actually go through the motions of putting that sticky note in our car or on our visor. And so I encourage you to, if you wish, if you feel comfortable, talk amongst yourselves or just reflect on your own about these teachings and this message today.